Cybercrime investigation. Basic cybercrime investigation.
The history of the Cyber Bureau is as follows. It started as National Police Agency Computer Crime Investigation Unit in 1997 and operated as a Regional Office Cybercrime Investigation Unit in 1999. It developed into the Cyber Terror Response Center in 2000 and increased the number of cybercrime investigators to 120. In 2000, cyber investigation teams were established at each police station nationwide, and the number of cyber investigators expanded to 1,060 people nationwide. In 2014, the Cybersecurity Bureau of the Nation Police Agency was expanded and reorganized, and the number of cyber investigators nationwide increased by more than 1,100. In 2021, with the name Cyber Bureau, it has increased the number of investigators to 2,300, and is working hard to make a clean and safe cyber world. I'll talk about basic cybercrime investigations on the next page. In this session, we will talk about network commands, domains, and IPs, collecting information on remote computers, collecting and analyzing Internet access records, collecting and using volatile data, and analyzing the Windows server. In this session, we will learn about network commands, searching WHOIS, collecting information about remote computers, collecting and analyzing Internet access records, collecting volatile data, and log analyzing the Windows server.
Network commands.
Let's talk about the network commands in the Windows operating system that you need to know the most in cybercrime investigations. To execute network commands in the Windows operating system, there are two ways to display the command window: by pressing the Windows key and R key, or clicking the Start button. And if you type CMD here, a DOS screen appears on a black background. The unique name given to the devices connected to the network is called the host name, and you can find the host name of the computer by typing hostname in the DOS window. ipconfig is used to check the IP address, MAC address, and network connection of your computer. And if you type ipconfig, O in the DOS window, you can find out the IP address of the computer. The command to check whether communication with the entered IP address is running smoothly is done by entering ping IP in the DOS window. And you can see whether communication between the computer and the other party is running or disconnected. The command to check the network status of your computer is by typing netstat-an in the DOS window. And all connection and ports that are on standby are displayed. To check the IP address of your computer and view the entire contents of the IP routing table, type route print to check the IP route in the IP routing table. The command to check domain information is by entering nslookup domain name in the DOS window. And you can check the IP address of the domain. Let's continue to talk about network commands. First, the command to obtain network information through the net command is by entering netview in the DOS window, and you can get information about the area, host, or resource shared with the designated PC. Second, the command used to connect the MAC address and IP address is ARPA. As previously seen, you need to check the IP address and run ARP. Third, the command to check the name of a remote computer using NetBIOS information is by entering nbtstat a IP address in the DOS window. Fourth, the command that shows the path through your computer to the host computer is just by entering threshold IP address in the DOS window. Fifth, TCP dump is a packet interception command that works in most Unix-like operating systems. If you enter TCP dump ini in the Unix run window, logs are collected for interfaces connected to the computer in bulk. The disadvantage of this is that logs of unnecessary interfaces are also collected. So if you enter the relevant interface, such as ETH0 in TCP dump I, you can collect essential log information.
Domain and IP.
Next, let's talk about domains and IPs. A domain is an internet address created with characters so that people can easily remember and interpret them in computers connected to the internet. According to Article 2 of the Internet Address Resources Act, domains were created to make it easy for people to remember Internet protocol addresses on the Internet. Let's talk about the DNS system. In the network, computers distinguish themselves and communicate by using IP addresses. People need to use an IP address to have a remote computer through a network, but memorizing the sequence of numbers is difficult. So the domain address system was made to make it easier to remember. Domain name system means the domain name hierarchy. For example, the KR domain includes the or.kr domain, which represents the or.area. And the kisa.or.kr domain is included in the or.kr domain. In general, domain administrators can manage the area covered by the domain. The domain administrator of the kisa.or.kr domain can manage the kisa.or.kr domain by creating multiple hosts such as www.kisa.or.kr or domain.kisa.or.kr under kisa.or.kr. A domain name server is a server that has information about an assignated domain area and mainly serves to translate domains into IP addresses. Let's talk about how to distinguish domain and host. A URL address usually consists of a host name and a domain. And a domain consists of an international domain and national domain of the host name. For example, for www.chol.com, www is the host name, and chol.com is the international domain name, and for www.police.go.kr www is the host name, and police.go.kr is the national domain name. You must especially remember that if the host name is included in a domain search, it will not perform normally. To search for a national domain, you can access and search at http://whois.nic.or.kr, and the investigative agency is the Korea Internet and Security Agency. To search for an international domain, you can access and search at https lookup.icann.org. And the investigative agency is the International Network Information Center. You can also access and search at http://www.net networksolutions.com, who is. And the investigative agency is Network Solutions. You can access and search at whois.domaintools.com, which is the site that is used most by investigative agencies. And the investigative agency is Domain Tools. For domain search, as said previously, the site, which is used the most by investigative agencies, shows the search results of the main domain. With the search results, we can know that the IP of the domain is 118.219.253.226. The name of the site is Medias, and the person who registered the domain is Hee Sang-woo. Now, let's talk about IPs. They are divided into IP4 and IP6. First, the IP address is a special number used by devices in a computer network to recognize and communicate with each other. The IP4 address is not a resource that can be allocated to users indefinitely. By setting standards and establishing policies in Korea, such as a phone number, but a finite resource managed globally, and there are about 4.3 billion of them. Some of them are reserved for special purposes, and their use is limited by address regulations. So they are given and used according to the IP address allocation policy. The IP4 address configuration consists of the network address given by the Internet Address Resource Management organizations, and the host address given by the network administrator to identify individual hosts on the network. IP4 addresses are divided into classes A, B, C, D, and E according to the size of the network or the number of hosts. Classes A, B, and C are for network configuration granted to general users. Class D is for multicast, and the Class E is reserved for future use. IP4 addresses are divided into classes A, B, C, D, and E according to the size of the network or the number of hosts. Class A, B, and C are for network configuration granted to general users. Class D is for multicast, and Class E is reserved for future use. IP6 addresses are next-generation Internet Protocol addresses that extend the existing IP4 address system to 128-bit size to solve the IP4 address exhaustion problem. IP6 was standardized to significantly supplement and improve the IP4-based Internet, which was created with consideration for military and academic research purposes, and many problems occurred when it was used for commercial purposes. IPv6 addresses are usually divided into 16-bit units. Each 16-bit block is converted back into a 4-digit hexadecimal number and separated by colons. Based on the 64-bit technical boundary according to RFC 2373, the first 64 bits are used as a network address, and the last 64 bits are used as an interface address to allocate LAN card devices connected to the network, etc. The policy boundary is divided based on an agreement between the Regional Internet Registry within the 64-bit network address part, and the first 48 bits are used as the upper network address, and the last 16 bits are used as the lower network address. Let's talk about converting the IP address of the domain. A domain can be used by registering it with an IP address in a DNS server. Many operate DNS servers through registration agencies. If you look at the working principle of the DNS server, if a user with a dynamic IP asks the DNS server of police.go.kr, what is the IP address of police.go.kr? The DNS server of police.go.kr replies to the dynamic IP user. The IP address is 211.196.153.100. This way, if the dynamic IP user says IP 211.196.153.100, show me police.go.kr, the user can check the website of the National Police Agency with an internet web browser. Let's talk about converting the IP address of the domain. A domain can be used by registering it with an IP address in a DNS server. Many operate DNS servers through registration agencies. If you look at the working principle of the DNS server, if a user with a dynamic IP asks the DNS server of police.go.kr, what is the IP address of police.go.kr? The DNS server of police.go.kr replies to the dynamic IP user. The IP address is 211.196.153.100. This way, if the dynamic IP user says IP 211.196.153.100, show me police.go.kr, the user can check the website of the National Police Agency with an internet web browser.
Collecting information about remote computers.
Next, let's talk about IP tracking programs that can collect information about remote computers. Visual Route is a program that analyzes the route connected to the location of an internet server. Have you ever wondered what route your computer goes through when you access a certain website? This can be useful when you want to know what path the connection goes through, the network speed of the connected path, etc. In addition, the route is visually displayed using a world map, so you can recognize it at a glance. When you run the program, you will see a screen that looks like a world map and an input window. In the host field, enter the host you want to route to. If you click the Enter button after entering the host, the IP address of the host appears and route tracking starts. The speed of each route, the name of the ISP, and the location of a server are displayed with relatively detailed information. Click on the map to zoom in. Right-click to zoom out. Click node name or location on the list to display detailed information, and click the snap button to copy it to a clipboard as text. If you use Edit Save Table as text, you can copy the list as text and select Edit Save Table Map Image to save the list or map as an image. Among the scan programs that can collect information about remote computers, there is the LAN-Guard Network Security Scanner program developed by GFI that can check basic information such as remote computer operating system and name, as well as service port and service name. Next, let's talk about collecting information on remote computers by using NetBIOS information. First, NetBIOS refers to Network Basic Input-Output Systems, which is an interface that defines the basic input-output for using network services, and is used to identify each computer on a Windows network. For one of the network commands, when you input MB stat a IP address. In the DOS window, you can find out the computer name. Group name and LAN card MAC address of the remote computer for the IP address. After accessing the LAN card menu, access requests from external sources. To check this, click the Windows Start button and type CMD to run the DOS screen on a black background. If you enter F port, you can check all the currently opened ports in the system.
Windows Server Analysis.
Next, let's talk about how to analyze Windows Server logs. First is the event log. An event log stores various information generated in the system, such as the situation when a user logs in or out of Windows and the content of a new service execution. Event logs are divided into system, security, and application events, and each one is stored in separate files. You can see the storage location of each log on the screen. To collect event logs, click the Windows Start button. And type CMD to run the DOS screen on a black background. If you enter PS log list, you can collect event logs currently stored in the system. Since there are many output results when event logs are collected, saving them as a file will be helpful for future event log analysis. Second, there is the application log. Since it has information that can be known only in the case of a Windows server, it collects logs of the Internet Information Service, which is the default web server of Windows, logs of the Windows Mail Transfer Service, SMTP, and logs of the Windows File Transfer Service, FTP. In addition, the log files of IIS, SMTP, and FTP servers are saved in the form of general text. So they can be viewed with a text editor without a separate program and can be copied using the searcher. You can see the storage location of the logs on the screen.
Let's take a look at the summary of this session.